All right. Well, welcome everyone. This is the first ever uh, BME Alumni Career Panel for the University of South Florida Medical Engineering. So we are so excited you are here, and we look forward to learning from you. Just a little bit about our department. These are our cutting edge research areas and our rockstar researcher faculty. And all of this information you can find on our website. And we are happy to congratulate USF's Morsani College of Medicine, who is a joint department with us, on being the #1 med school in Florida. So woohoo! And we are recording this session. The microphones should be muted for the audience. Cameras off for the audience, the cameras on for the panelists. And we are sharing some of the questions that were submitted in registration. And in the meantime, if you have a question that comes up, you can post them in the chat, which has been enabled. So all of the panelists are going to answer the first question slide. Now the remaining questions will go through a lightning round where the moderator will select 2 panelists to start, and you'll see it on your screen. Any remaining panelists can chime in afterwards by raising your hand physically or in the emoji manner. So 60 minutes goes quickly. I have to set some expectations here. We're not going to be able to get to all of the questions, but we are looking at sending these to the panelists for written answers to be shared as resources with the audience and the department, the students as we go forward. So I have the distinct pleasure of introducing our ombudsman, who is going to be monitoring the chat and other things, as my boss, Dr. Christopher Pasaglia. I'm going to let you do this slide if you would.
That's me, and I'll be monitoring the chat. That's a little bit of my background history here before I came here. If you have any questions, we'll field the chat questions at the end, or are we going to do it during the broadcast?
We're going to do it at the end. We have some student questions that were submitted during the registration that are embedded in our PowerPoint.
Very good. Well, thank you all for attending this inaugural event.
And my name's Terry Fox. I'm doing industry relations for medical engineering. I was over at computer science and engineering doing their graduate certificates for a while prior. And if you are looking for great advice on how to find jobs, you can make an appointment with me or follow me. I repost the most amazing resources from LinkedIn. And I'm going to turn it over to my co-host and co-moderator.
All right, welcome everyone. It's exciting to see you all. I've met you guys over the years. I am Kemia Kintewe, and many of you know me already, so you can skip to the next. I will be introducing the panel and also giving you some questions. So what's our goal for today? Our agenda is to help our students. We want to make sure that you are successful as you transition into your careers. And how best to do it than to actually bring alumni back in so they can actually give you some insights and share some tips and some best practices. So what you see on the screen is a list of panelists who have volunteered their precious time to be with you today. So from the left to the right is the order of their decrease in graduation year. So the first person we have on there is Alicia Bonnell, who works right now as the director of the Digital Quality Innovative Medicine at Johnson & Johnson. And you can see where she has worked previously. And next we have Jacob Yurinsky, who is a manufacturing engineer at Oxygen here in Tampa, and he has also worked as an R&D engineer at Moffitt. And next we have Jacob Burden, who is an R&D engineer with the KLS Martin Group. And he has also worked as an engineer reconstruction at IPS. And next we have Dr. Paneros, who is a manufacturing engineer at Atrex. Next we have Haley Morena, who is a systems engineer, and she is working right now as a Jabil. A previous job was also as Jabil as a project manager. And now, do we have Justin in?
Yep.
Yes. So we have Justin with us, who is a quality engineer at Bowen. Next, we have Hannah Caldy, who is an associate clinical specialist with Medtronic. And the last but not the least is Sophia Alonso, who works with Johnson & Johnson, and she works as a regulatory affairs intern, and she has previously interned at Jabil as well. So we welcome you all, and we ask that when you do respond to the questions, because of our time, please be brief and be BME. So our first question. So what we decided to do here, if you look on the top, you would see your name, and that's the order that we would like you to respond to the questions on the screen. So there are 5 questions, but they're kind of all related to where did the story begin, right? So our first question is, what was your first position in the industry, and what did you do, or how did you land that position, and what was the transition like from academia to industry? And also, if you can talk about the current job and what does your department do? And you consider related student questions as you respond. That way you can try to cover as many of this questions in your response. So Alicia, would you do us the honor to go first? And then Jacob Uriska will go after you.
Thanks, Kimmy, and welcome. Excited to see everybody here tonight. So my first position was actually with Lockheed Martin. I joined them in their Operations Leadership Development Program that was called OLDP. It was a 2-year rotational program. Had the opportunity to go work in 4 different jobs through that program, and it was a really exciting time for me to be able to go kind of explore different areas that I might be interested in. And I really got the position because I had interned with Lockheed. So I would say that, those internships are your gateway into the organization, and they typically are going to pull from the intern pool into their new hire pool. I think the transition for me, I was really excited to go out and work. I'd been in school for almost 5 years and really excited about trying something different. I think I was a little surprised at how little of what I did in school I actually applied in my day-to-day job at work. So it sort of felt like you were back in the learning curve, back into doing things that you didn't know how to do, and every day was something new. But I will say I felt like I had more free time once I started working to kind of go chase some personal hobbies and finally a little bit of money to go do that with. Today, I'm with Johnson & Johnson, and I am a director of digital quality. And so this is probably one of my favorite positions that I have ever had, because it sort of brings together 2 passions of mine. So I've spent a lot of years working in quality assurance, doing different roles. So how can we make sure that we have all of the right quality programs in place? And then helping to drive that digital strategy. So how are we going to adapt our processes with all of the things coming in the future when we think about the AI, automation, and everything? How are our jobs going to change, as well as how are we going to apply it in a compliant manner? So we support our entire $60 billion pharmaceutical organization, and we are mapping out our future in the digital space. So it's really exciting time.
All right, Jacob Urinsky.
I will say really quick, it's so cool, Alicia, how you worked for RTI. At Oxygen, we work very closely with RTI, and a lot of the people I report to and work with used to work at RTI.
Lots of friends that went to Oxygen, absolutely.
RTI and Oxygen are also neighbors in our Gainesville site, so that's very cool too. But my first position out of college was at a small contract research office out of the USF Innovation Hub down there by the engineering buildings. I worked for a company called Neogen Oncosystems, where we essentially worked with very large pharmaceutical companies to test potentially cancer-fighting compounds and see how they compared to industry standards, various concentrations, as like a preclinical type of work to scope out what they should focus on as a company. What helped me land that position was actually being annoying. When I was graduating college, I aggressively applied to a lot of companies. And whenever LinkedIn popped up saying, hey, this is the person who posted this job, I was annoying. I reached out to them. I messaged them every day until I got a message back. And thankfully, the supervisor there, Kelly, was incredible. Hit it off with her and eventually landed my first job there, which took me away from my internship at Axogen. But my transition from academia to industry was very interesting. It was, I agree with Alicia, it's a huge learning curve. You're very much back to knowing nothing. First week of every class, you don't know what's ahead of you. And that happens a lot with every new project as well. But one thing that was very unique was there's a distinct lack of, wouldn't say lack, but a very different amount of feedback. There's not a lot of, oh, you do your homework and you do your quizzes and you can gauge how well you're doing, how much you're grasping the material. It's very long-term feedback where at the start of your project and at the end of the project, you kind of see how well you hit your milestones. What is my current job? I am a manufacturing engineer at Axogen, and my department supports and figures out how to make product from biological tissue. Axogen uses donated human tissue and we turn it into products that help people with nerve injuries. Specifically, I work on our birth tissue product called a Vi Plus, where we turn placentas into nerve wraps.
Wow. Thank you.
Go ahead on Jacob Borden. Thank you, Jacob Urinsky.
Yeah, tough acts to follow. You guys aren't making it easy on me. My transition, once I left school, I kind of applied to a bunch of places and landed at KLS Martin. And they're a implant company, do a lot in the CMF space, so craniomaxillofacial, but also expanding into thoracic indications. And when I first joined that team, I was a recon design engineer. And so we used some CAD 3D modeling systems, not SolidWorks, but Freeform. And we would get patient CT scans and you would design an implant. And in my case, it was for traumatic injuries. So someone had a tumor or a gunshot wound or something, plating the jaw back into the appropriate position. And so it was really rewarding. A lot of kind of repetitive work. So it was a cool transition from school, because I think one of the biggest transitions out of school is not having deadlines and assignments for things and having longer timelines. But in that position, I had a caseload for the day and you'd work through those cases. And so you could kind of go through your checklist. The position I'm in now is a lot more fluid and you have to be much more self-starting. And so that's kind of a cool transition that I appreciate and allows you to grow a lot more, I think. Some of the things that helped me land that job was some of the research that I did in undergrad. And so Freeform uses a haptic pen, which was one class that I took with Dr. Reed, and then was in his lab where I helped make some haptic devices. So I had good things to talk about in interviews and they went well. And so kind of trying to find ways to leverage the things that you've done previously with the new position. And then what do I currently do? I'm with the research and development department. And so our company is split up into two main sides, and one is IPS, so that's individual patient specific or solutions. And so that's in like very individual singular CT scan. And then the other side of the company is kind of everything medical device related. So that's surgical instrumentation. There's even some like software developments that are going on. I gotta be careful what I say because I may say too much. But like a lot of cool things, plates and screws. So all the things that you would find at Home Depot, we just make the implant version of that. And so it's kind of fun to, a lot of what we do is working through the documentation to submit it to the regulatory bodies. Everything we do is 510(k) clearance, so it's trying to get things out quickly to the FDA, not doing a whole lot of long-term studies. That's me.
Thank you. Next, we have Jennifer. And if you can also try to address the related student questions, if you see those questions are related to job search, they were trying to figure out how to apply for a position, and there was something that you could change in your job search, what would that be and why? Go ahead, please.
Okay, sounds good. Good evening, everybody. My name is Jennifer Pineros. So I'm gonna address my first position and my current job simultaneously because they're the same thing for me. My first position is being a manufacturing engineer at Arthrex. So Arthrex helps with the development of products for orthopedic surgeries. What helped me land my position was, like Jacob said priorly, being annoying. Every job posting that came up, I applied. I knew that I wanted to stay in Florida, so anything that came out BME related in Florida, applied. I think I submitted around like 20 applications easily after I graduated from my PhD. My current department is sutures and Arthrex, so all of the sutures are used in surgeries, and we are expanding to other regions like cardiothoracic, is what I am involved in. So I like my job. It's fun because it's a little bit of everything. I do validation engineering, design engineering, as well as manufacturing, which is making sure that our processes are running smoothly. My transition from academia to industry was very different, coming from working in a lab doing my PhD to being in an actual company. But I will say that a lot of things I learned in academia helped translate to industry, such as doing my PhD. It's a little bit hands off where I'm allowed to manage my own projects. So those are skills that I took into industry. And one thing that I would have changed while applying for my position would be capitalizing more on the projects I did even when I was in undergrad and graduate school. Those do, when you're applying, companies do look at those as experience, even if they're not job experience, but it shows your skill set. And yeah.
Thank you. Next, we have Haley.
Hey everyone, good evening. So my first position going into industry after graduating with my bachelor's degree in biomedical engineering was actually an entry-level project coordinator position at Jabil. I landed this job through Dr. Zekri, believe it or not. So basically he, over the summer after graduation, was meeting with an executive at Jabil, and they were talking about this new system where instead of bringing in a project manager into the company who had 5, 10, 15 years of experience in medical device, they wanted to kind of rear somebody from the ground up, start them off as a project coordinator, and then grow them into the management position, just kind of as like a different way of, I guess, managing projects. It was kind of an experiment at the time. So essentially they gave him like the job role, and he basically went through and thought about his students who had recently graduated and were still looking, and decided, I guess, that I fit the aptitudes and the characteristics that they were looking for. So that was my first position that I had. And then, yes, I went through the program. I was mentored by managers with more experience. I did do project management for about a year and a half. And then just most recently, I transitioned to my current position, which is as a systems engineer, also in the same group with Jabil Healthcare. So it's been kind of a non-linear path to get to where I am now, but I definitely value that experience. And I think it gave me a unique perspective as an engineer to have started in the management space and to be here now. As far as my transition into industry, probably the biggest thing that sticks out to me is just the schedule. It's not as flexible, it's certainly more rigid, but it's also not as, I will say, time demanding as being a student. I found that my default as a student was working late into the night, trying to meet deadlines for submitting things. And here, you know, the only time we really stay too late is if we have like critical project milestones that are coming up that we have to meet, and we might stay as a team, but that's less common certainly than when I was a student. So that's probably the biggest difference between transitioning into industry and being in academia. And then as far as anything that I wish I would have done differently, so personally, I mean, I am in the position I'm in now because of my network. Obviously, I had a good working relationship with Dr. Zekri, and I think as a general rule, if you can first meet somebody and kind of get to know them in a natural way and show somebody your character and your integrity and build that relationship, it's going to aid you 5 years down the road, maybe when there's a position that's opening up, and they might think of you and kind of speak your name in rooms where you're not present. So I feel like in general, I probably, if I could go back and do it again, I would leverage my network more, as opposed to just like typing on my keyboard and applying to every position that's open. And, you know, I mean, I've heard of people that apply to hundreds, literally thousands of positions and don't hear back. But normally, if you're interfacing with another human, like, you're going to get a response. It's not going to take you hundreds of people that you reach out to before somebody responds to you. So I would definitely recommend leveraging your network for trying to find positions. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you. Next we have Justin.
Where is Justin?
All right. While we're looking for him, Hannah, you're up next.
Hi, everybody. Good evening. So I am fresh out of my undergraduate. I just graduated in 2024. And so I'm 9 months into my position, and it's the first position in industry that I have had. And I was able to leverage the internship to industry pipeline. So I was super fortunate at USF to be an intern with Medtronic my summer of junior year into my senior year with something that was called the ACE internship. It was an associate clinical experience. And the position really holistically spent a full year exposing me to what it is to be a clinical specialist in the cardiac ablation space. So I had a super clear mindset about what that role would look like if I took it full time and kind of the expectations of my role. And so when I graduated back in May of 2024, I was offered a full-time position contingent on me moving. So I did have to relocate. So I now work in Washington, D.C., Northern Virginia area. And I was able to relocate with that position because during my internship, I had several like managers across the country who were a part of the training and education of the interns. And fortunately, I had made some great impressions. And so one of my current clinical manager is one of the trainers from our program who had picked me out of the 6 interns across the country to move when there was a job available in DC. So my transition from academia to industry, I think the best way I can put it, my job is very inconsistent and dynamic. So the nature of the beast with clinical is that you're kind of at the mercy of hospital scheduling. So I work with physicians during procedures, real time, supporting Medtronic's products when they're used. And so my workday can be one case at one hospital, I'm done by noon. Or it could be one case that's 3 hours away and I'm driving the majority of my day to get there and back. Or other days I can have 4 cases and I'm there from 8 a.m. till 6 p.m. And so my days are not consistent in hours, in working location, and driving duration, what products I'm supporting. So I think a big thing if you're interested in clinical is just the ability to be adaptable and flexible to changes on a dime. And so, yeah, I think I spoke a little bit about my current job and what I do. I think one thing that I would, looking back, would really value, and I think a couple people have already said that, is it's who you know and the impressions you make. I was really fortunate, again, to have a great internship experience and kind of set myself apart maybe from some other interns. And I think that's probably why I was able to transition from that internship to full-time and doing what I do now.
Thank you. Next, and the last person for this question is Sophia.
Hi everyone, I'm Sophia. So I'm actually the only person on the panel who doesn't have a full-time. It is an internship that I'm doing with Johnson & Johnson. I am finishing up my master's, the accelerated master's here at USF. So this is my first position in industry. It is in regulatory affairs at Johnson & Johnson. And I kind of have a unique story of how I got to land this opportunity. So I was presenting at the Florida Medical Manufacturers Consortium back in junior year, and I got to meet a manager from Johnson & Johnson and highlight my poster and build, I would say, kind of a small connection with her. Then in my senior year, when I was back presenting again, I remembered meeting her. She works in regulatory affairs. So on that second time around, I knew the answers to the questions that she was going to ask, the regulatory affairs answers. And I guess I answered them well enough, and she liked me enough to open a position for me that summer. So it was pretty unique because I didn't have to go online and like apply. I was kind of gifted it from our experience at FMMC. And so I've been working at Johnson & Johnson since the summer. It was a co-op or an internship that was extended throughout the school year because our project is long, and she thought that my help was useful. My transition from this position from industry regulatory affairs is very connected with engineering. So it's been helpful working with engineers and understanding some of the common language. And when they speak, I can understand some of the technical terms and what they're experiencing, but it's also a lot of jargon that I'm not used to. So regulatory affairs uses a lot of acronyms, and it's kind of a whole different space instead of innovation. So this transition, I would say the technical skills were helpful in communication, but the most important skills were the soft skills that I learned. I'm very thankful for the internship position that they have through Capstone at USF, not just learning technically, but also the skills in communication, the skills in speaking. Those were the ones that were the most beneficial in the transition. The skills in just knowing how to learn things was also beneficial, kind of being quick on your feet with all the new slang and the new jargon. So in all my current positions, so I'm in regulatory affairs. I work with Biosense Webster on their catheters, and my current position is we have a new manufacturing location at Johnson & Johnson, and so we are working on the notice of change for the EU submission and getting that manufacturing location approved so we can start producing catheters at that new location. So there's a lot of things you don't think about. The equipment has to be like tested and verified in like 8 million different ways. The people have to be tested and verified. The sterilization of the building, the housing of the equipment, there's so many kind of holes and like hoops that you have to jump through in order, even not building or in making the device, but just assembling it is pretty complex. So it's been a unique kind of perspective on this other side of engineering.
Thank you very much. Thank you all for sharing your experiences. And students, I hope you guys are taking notes. And if you have any follow-up questions, please put them in the chat. We'll try to get to them at the end. So next question,
Is
Terry?
Justin didn't come back?
I don't see him.
Yeah, I emailed him, so we'll keep an eye out for him just in case.
Correct.
So this is a slide of only student questions, and how did you figure out which way to go or what to apply for? When did you figure out what career you wanted to pursue and how did you know it would be right for you? If BME allows you to be so versatile and have so many options regarding career paths, how can you make sure um, uh, your resume, I think something's blocking a word here, your resume is specific enough so that you can be competitive in them? How do you make your resume, here, let me just squeeze that down, well-rounded enough to gain skills that apply across different roles? So even when I took this job and I was like, well, there are so many career fields, this is a very difficult task. And some folks know exactly what they want to do and others don't. And let me go back to, so Jennifer is going to take this on first and then Haley. How did you know which way to go?
Okay, well, being frank, I didn't know exactly which way I wanted to go. I knew that following my graduation, I didn't want to be in a lab setting. I want to get experience with something else. So I applied to quality engineering positions, manufacturing engineer. I applied to be a field engineer, which I almost took a job with Nikon to do that. But in the end, what I really wanted was just to gain experience in a biomedical company. I did know certain companies that I wanted to work with, and Arthrex was one of them, just because I lower emission statement. I feel like I'm making a difference with patients, which is one of the reasons I went to biomedical engineering. I wanted to make a difference in the biomedical field. So really, I didn't have a set game plan, but I knew that I wanted to be within the biomedical engineering realm. Terry, do you want me to answer the other questions as well, or just that one?
Well, it's really just, I think you kind of answered it. It's, if we can focus on just how did you know? And I think the story you told before we came on about, your manager's wife works in the lab setting and, there's an option that you could have taken over there. But because you're in a company that has different options, you can move around. So that's something for, I think, the folks who aren't sure what they want to do, is if you work with a company that has those different options to transfer in different departments, that is an asset.
Yeah, and that's important to know, is whichever job you get first, it most likely won't be your last job. So you always can be on the lookout to see if you want to move positions, but it's important to try something out and see if that's what you want to do.
Here, I'm gonna just do a quick, make sure that we are all sharing correctly. Share. Slide and okay. And then Haley.
So kind of to echo Jennifer, I would say I wasn't exactly sure what I wanted to do. I also applied for kind of a range of different options. I picked a couple of roles that were kind of like buzzwords, and I would search for those on company portals and apply for those. But I can tell you that project manager and project coordinator were not on that list. So when the opportunity came up, really everything else I decided was right for me. It was just the position itself was not exactly what I was looking for. So I think it's really important when you're kind of assessing the market, the job market, when you're in that position, is that you realize that there's not going to be one perfect offer, one perfect role. Like something is going to be not exactly to your liking. The salary might be lower than you expect. The location might not be what you wanted. It's really important to know what your non-negotiables are, because then that can help you make your decision, because nothing is going to check every single box that you have. So to be honest, when I got the position and the offer for project coordinator, all of my other boxes were checked. I wanted to stay in Tampa. I didn't want to have to move anywhere else. All of my family is here, so I didn't want to be far from them. The industry is exactly what I wanted. The types of products that we develop, the companies that we work with. I had an opportunity to come meet the team before I accepted my position. I liked them. I found that I communicated well with them. So everything checked the boxes. It was just that the position itself wasn't actually what I had anticipated for myself with a degree in engineering. So I think that's probably really important to note when you do kind of find your footing in a certain area. And then I will say one interesting thing, when I first got here, I started setting up one-on-ones with people just to get to know the team, to understand the functions and how they collaborate, and essentially how product development happens, how the projects are run and things like that. And I specifically remember having a one-on-one with someone who was very high ranking, very well educated, PhD. He was a system architect, which is what I am now. Systems engineering, system architect at Jabil are synonymous. And it was funny because it was my very first week at the company, and I looked at him and I was like, that's the job I want. I want to be doing what he's doing at some point. That's the one that's right for me. And I'm here now, right? But it's been 3 years. So it did kind of take me some time to like find my way. But I definitely am happy that I stayed, and I got a lot of experience along the way. Jacob, do you have a question right now that you want to say something?
No, I was gonna say when you're done, just adding on to that.
Okay. Yeah, and then as far as versatility, it's something that I struggled with too, and I think probably every single student and graduate on this panel would agree that with biomedical engineering, like, we do have a very wide range of backgrounds and courses that we take, but we only go like not very far into them. So we've taken all of like the entry level EE, ME, whatever software classes, but we never get to like specialize too much. So it can be kind of hard to find that like sweet spot for where you land. I found it with systems engineering because you have to have an understanding of the overall product architecture and how the different components work together to make the system function. So for me, that was kind of my sweet spot. But I also know of other people, another graduate actually, Danny Morajan, he also came to Jabil, and he was an electrical engineer at Jabil for a few years before he's now at a different company. He's got promoted, but he went into electrical engineering with a background in biomedical engineering. So I've seen people do it differently, and I think it'll, depending on what your aptitudes are, what you naturally incline towards, what you have skills for, you'll kind of like find your way in that as well.
I just want to say thank you for addressing that, because a lot of students change their majors and, come back again, and they're not really sure what BMEs do and what they can do. So thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right,
Jacob, the floor is yours.
Yeah, I agree with basically everything he was saying. And I would caution people who think that they have their mind made up and what they want to do to stay open, because what I found is the things that I thought I would love are my least favorite parts of the job, and the things I thought I would hate are my favorite part of the job. So stay fluid. One thing that I didn't realize is you can move within a company. And much like Haley, I started a role, saw something, oh, that seems really cool. And I wouldn't have known that if I hadn't started something. So I don't think you have to know what you're going to do. I would just dive in, and from there, you'll learn what you want to do. So that would be my piece to add.
I appreciate that. So this next question is on skills. And Justin is not here. So Terry, how do you want us to do this? Open it up after Hannah speaks?
Sure.
All right. So this question has to do with in terms of skills. And a lot of students are wondering, how much is enough? What can I gain now? What can I add to my resume? So looking at certifications, training, licensing, what would you say the minimum that it must have? And then in terms of professional skill set, what are some of the recommended, your suggestion when it comes to hard and software skills that they can start to make sure they have now? So looking at the 4 questions on here, address them as much as you can, if it's in terms of elective courses that you would recommend or something that they may need to pay for now to have it on their resume. And I think it would depend on the industry they want to go into as well. So anything valuable skill set that you can recommend. This is up for discussion for your response. Hannah, you got this.
Sure, yeah. So I think I work in like a unique field of industry after biomedical engineering degree. I don't particularly have any certifications or licenses that translate to what I do as a clinical specialist. I think what I'll talk about a little bit more is the soft skills that you need. My job is inherently a very, very social one. I like to say like I'm kind of a customer service representative for Medtronic's products when I'm working with physicians. Because at the end of the day, those are Medtronic's customers, right? Those are the ones who either like my product or they don't. They either had a great experience with it or they didn't. And that a lot of that falls on how well I can support it during a case. And so my ability to professionally communicate technical skills that are more specific to like electrophysiology as a field is super important. But what I'll say is that I didn't have any background in electrophysiology when I got this job. I'm very fortunate to have the internship that taught me a lot. But I know Medtronic as a company right now is having a very large growth period where they are very interested in just hiring biomedical engineers with no background in cardiac ablations and EP. I think as a company, they're looking at biomedical engineers because they have the critical thinking skills and they have the problem solving skills that they know we can learn hard things well. And Medtronic as a company has the infrastructure and the training and education team to teach you exactly what you need to know to be a successful like clinical specialist in electrophysiology. All of my very niche skills that I bring to the cases I cover, Medtronic taught me through our training and education team. What I brought from my undergraduate is I think the soft skills of professionalism. How do I handle like complex social skills? Right? My physician's handling a product and it's not working the way they want it. They got a short temper. They have a short temper. They didn't eat lunch. They want to go home and see their wife and they're pissed. That's all stuff that comes into like play when I'm working with them. And so how do I handle that and like navigate that well? And so I think those are like, that's what I would recommend from a clinical perspective. The skills that I know my hiring managers are looking for are a little bit more on that social side and soft skills of handling complex situations. I mean, you get put in the hot seat. How do you handle that? They're yelling at you about something that they didn't like about their product. How do you handle that commentary, but still maintain professionalism? Those are, I think, on like day-to-day, like my most like useful skills out of BME.
Awesome. Any one in the panel who would like to respond to those questions? All right, Alicia, go ahead.
All right. So I would kind of echo a little bit of what was said in terms of skills. When you get to the job, most companies are going to have a ton of opportunities to go do training. I did training this year on Power Automate. Last year I did Power BI. I did Scaled Agile. You will have probably, especially in larger companies, no shortage of training to go do. I will emphasize the soft skills. Probably the biggest thing that will help you change your trajectory is your ability to communicate effectively to different audiences. Who are you talking to? What is it that they want to know? How are you addressing their questions? And can you scale the communication appropriately? And one of the biggest mistakes I see young engineers make is they're engineers, you're technical people. You have just spent 4 to 5 years learning all kinds of technical skills. And you're probably talking to people with finance degrees who don't know what you're talking about, but they make a lot of the business decisions and they tune it out. And you lose the opportunity to make some of that impact. So I would say really hone in on how you can communicate really effectively And just the one elective or course, I would say the one course I wish I had paid more attention to, I did take, is statistics. I think you will see that pulled through a whole lot of different areas, from design to manufacturing through quality, and it will definitely aid you in everything that you do.
Thank you, Alicia. And I forgot to mention earlier that Alicia Bonnell is one of our EAB, which is an external advisory board members. So she has been a very invaluable, she's made invaluable contributions to the department. So thank you, Alicia, for that. Jennifer.
Yeah, really quickly to add on what Alicia and Hannah both said. Most big companies have training programs for you. For example, right now I just got out of a prod to get my PMP certification with Arthrex. They're paying for it. They have in-person classes right now. But based off of skills coming directly from undergrad or even grad school, statistics, like Alicia said, I can't stress that enough. Minitab, Excel, companies love that. I know, having been interviewing candidates, Arthrex has hired a lot of engineer ones. That's something that we look for. Just whatever you're doing your projects and your schoolwork, my recommendation is cater your resume to make those projects and assignments for the position that you're applying for. So if you have done a coding project in one of your classes, so I remember at USF I took a robotics course where we had to code on MATLAB. I boosted that up and I said I can use MATLAB to code. It could also be used for these other applications, and those ways of selling yourself are also important, because yes, the skills you used in one class can be applied to other different areas in the companies that you're looking to work for.
Very good. So we're going to take one more, and then I think you can address it when we open it up for the next question. So Sophia.
Yes, just talking, kind of a little shift, but still in the same ballpark. In terms of skills, when you are in an internship, it kind of opens the doors to a lot of opportunities for learning as well. I can speak specifically with Johnson & Johnson. They have a special program called J&J Learn that once I became an intern, I was able to use. And it's a platform inside the company where you can take courses that Johnson & Johnson pays for, and they have like people running, and you can learn skills. So I took a Power BI course as well. I took a few courses in communication and in leadership, and got a few certifications through the Johnson & Johnson platform. And that was really beneficial because I was building my resume, working in an internship at this incredible company, but I also was taking advantage of the tools that the company allowed for me to have as well. So when you are in like a position like that, like an internship, don't just don't settle. Like there's always opportunities for growth. Like reach out and see. A lot of companies have those growing opportunities if you just ask about them. When I first joined, I didn't have access to J&J Learn. It was like some of the things were blocked. And I reached out to my manager and I was like, this looks really cool. They had a course on like data analytics that I really wanted to take. And I was like, this looks really cool, but I can't take it. Is there any way that like I can message somebody, get it opened? And I was able to. So don't let kind of like the walls block you as well. Ask people, ask questions. The like resources are there for you. You just have to ask for them. And that's something that I definitely was thankful for and was able to take advantage of.
I wanted to mention one thing, or ask Jennifer, Dr. Panero, if because I just got an email today, you guys have a online library that's accessible to everyone. What is the name of that?
So we use LinkedIn Learning.
Oh, no, it's the orthopedic.
Oh, the orthopedia. Oh my gosh, their database with, yeah. So Arthrex has, for everybody to be well aware and well educated on our products and itself, they have a whole database for all employees, whether it be engineers, operators, technicians. Anybody can come in and they can learn about our products and how they're used, and it really helps us be, I guess, more engaged in and appreciate more what Arthrex does as a company, because as engineers we make these products and then they go out the door and sometimes we never see them again. if we're not actually at the plant or anything. And it's a great thing to see how it's actually being used in the field at operating rooms and such. So yeah, Arthrex they really believe in training everybody. Everybody gets the same resources. Doesn't matter what position you're in.
Thank you. So this is for everyone. I have everyone lined up so you have a moment to think. What is one piece of advice you would offer current and future BME students? Starting with Jacob.
Oh man.
On the hot seat.
Work hard.
Work hard.
I think, well, first of all, everything that everyone's just said is 100% true. Shout out to Alicia for shouting out stats, probably the most important thing in engineering. I know everyone on this call handles a lot of data in their job to convince people of things, to do their job, I can't even count how many times I've used data in my job to like save a project, start a project, finish a project. So I would say really just follow your passion, find a purpose, find a company that really aligns with you as a person, and keep working on trying to find a position that aligns with that. I got this manufacturing engineering job as a job I did not think would be my last. And I've been extremely surprised and very happy and thankful that I do love it as much as I do. And I get the satisfaction of the new product development piece and the tech transfer piece, as well as the proximity to a patient. You know, I work with people on being able to make the product, ship the product, and that's a little bit closer to the patient that I really wanted and didn't really get in my previous jobs. So I would just say, follow your passion, work hard.
Thank you. Jacob Borden.
Yeah, this kind of piggybacks off the skills comment, but I think something that is really important for my role and something that I know when I was going through the program there was potential to not have, but I would suggest if you plan on being in a role that's going to design something or create something, getting a foundation in SolidWorks. And so if you haven't learned it now, I would recommend going on YouTube. There's free courses on YouTube you can take. I use it on a daily basis, and I'm very glad. I almost didn't take the class, but I'm very glad that I did. So that's one. Another thing I would say is for me, the team that I work with is everything. So you can do the same job with a group of people that are negative and don't want to be there. And it's going to be way less fun than being with a bunch of people that are motivated, want you to succeed, want to teach you new things. So really, when you're in your interview process, when they open the floor up for questions, really try and get a sense of the culture. Everyone will give you we're like a family, but really try and ask like deep questions on what they do for continued education. Like when was the last time they lost somebody and why? Things like that that try to help you understand what the company stands for, who they are. And then the last one is kind of more big picture, and that's for me, when I started working, life becomes a lot more routine. So you get up, go to work, leave work. You're not bumping into friends walking around on campus like you used to. So you have to really be intentional with relationships and like make sure to form things, meet up with people after work, um, try and find hobbies because otherwise life kind of gets monotonous and zooms past you. So doing new things and trying to stretch your comfort zone is something that I found a lot of success in, like making life just more interesting.
Thank you. Jennifer.
Oh, it's hard to follow that one up. That was really good advice from Jacob. I guess my advice would be take advantage of your time at USF. As somebody said before, you're going to be learning a lot of things there, and then when you get into industry, it's a lot more focused. So while you're at USF, grasp onto all the information that you can take there because it will be useful in your career. And very quickly, another piece of advice is to tailor your resume to the position that you want. One resume will not fit all positions. So make sure you have those keywords in there. And yeah.
All right, Haley.
Jacob Urinsky, I thought you were going to say be annoying. I expected it. That's what I'm going to take away from this. But no, my one thing probably would just be like very simply put, start somewhere, know yourself and what you want, keep showing up and remain committed to your
Great.
I will say part of the work hard is also be annoying. If you're not
goals.
being annoying to a handful of people, you're not working
Yeah,
hard enough.
it goes hand in hand with keep showing up. Like just be there, you know?
100%.
The confirmation bias. You're just always there. That's how you succeed.
All right, Hannah. Thank you.
I would say, like, for me, relationships, guys. I think one thing, like, looking back, like, all 4 years of your undergraduate and then potentially moving on, like, you meet so many people, whether it's faculty or you go to a conference or literally just your, like, peer-to-peer relationships, you know, after college. It's who you know, right? So, like, I was able to forward resumes to hiring managers at Medtronic of my fellow, like, graduate students in my class and open doors that way. I think that's like a priority that looking back, like you really should put emphasis and weight on that will help you in your career.
All right, Sophia.
I want to piggyback on what Jennifer said because it really resonates with me as well. Please take advantage of what USF has to offer. The BME program here is so incredible, and I serve as a capstone TA right now. And I just see, I guess, from a new perspective, all of the opportunities that USF has to offer the students. The automatic internship when you enter your senior year with real medical companies is so big and so like impressive. So take advantage of it on the resume, like highlight it, bold it, like underline it. What like an incredible opportunity to have. All of the opportunities that I've gotten have been through USF. So I wouldn't have met my manager if not for FMMC. And the only way I got to present at FMMC was because of a junior design competition where the winners get to go present at FMMC. I did my master's through JBL, and the only reason I got to do that was because of my senior capstone design project, which was through JBL, and working hard on that with my team. Shout out Hannah. And we were able to present something that we were really proud of, and that resonated into a master's project for me. So all of my big like top marks on my resume are all thanks to just opportunities that USF had and I was able to take like care of. So you're given so much, like use it to its full advantage. I like cannot stress that enough.
Thank you. Alicia.
So I've heard a ton of great advice here from everybody on the panel, and I would say I agree with everything that's been said. I would leave you kind of with one final thought. You know, as you traverse your career, you're going to find periods of fantastic and periods that don't work. Whether it's maybe your life circumstances change, maybe you have a child, maybe you get married, maybe you get divorced, maybe you have a boss that you don't connect with, maybe you have a role that you don't really like. You will find something where something is not working in your life. And my advice is don't let it go on too long. Make a change. No job is ever forever. No decision in that is ever final. Kind of give yourself the freedom and the flexibility to say, hey, I'm going to go try something different because I'm not maybe exactly happy with what I'm doing now. And I think that you'll find more fulfillment as you move through your career.
Super. Oh my gosh, we almost finished on time. Now we have time for Q&A. Do we have Dr. Pasaglia there with a question in the chat?
We do not have a question as yet, so I invite everyone to put their questions in the chat. I'd also like to say thanks to all the speakers. That was really informative. It was good to see you all, hear about what you've done now since your time at USF. And I particularly appreciated Sophia's and I think it was Hannah's or maybe Jennifer's comments about take in as much as you can while you're at USF. All right, we do have a question here. Do I need to repeat it, or should we just have the how do you want people to field it, Terry?
I would just read the question.
All right, so whoever would like to go first, just do it. The question is, what kind of activities did you do during your time at USF to be more competitive, such as capstone projects, get into a student organization chapter, independent projects, getting into a research lab, presenting at a conference, and then what skill set did you learn along the way? So I guess also maybe rank order as well, like of all those activities.
All right, Haley.
Yes, I wanted to take this one actually because I feel like one of the things that made my resume strong when I was applying for jobs was my involvement with different internships. So I knew very early on that I did not want to remain in academia after I graduated. I knew that industry was my trajectory. So I can happily say and gratefully that every single summer that I was not taking courses, I was doing an internship. And across kind of a range of different, I guess, even industries really, but I worked in a clinic. I actually did some engineering work with an aerospace company. And then I did a co-op as well with Johnson & Johnson in the manufacturing space. So I think one thing that stood out on my resume was that I had many different industry experiences prior to ever actually formally entering industry, and I do think that was something that set me apart.
And thank you, Jennifer.
Yeah, so while I was at USF, I was a little bit of a mix of everything. So during my summers, I would be working in Dr. Forsina's lab for my PhD. And there I got conference experience, so public conference presentations, publications, all that stuff on my resume was beneficial for me because employers could go and see my work when they looked it up. But also, I was heavily involved in student clubs. So I was a regional representative for SHIP, or the Society of Hispanic Professional Engineers, which with that, I was able to show some of my soft skills and bringing people together, communication, organization. So also, or student orgs are helpful in building up your resume as well.
Thank you. Hannah.
Yeah, just to offer a little bit of a different perspective too. I think it's great that if you have experiences and work that you did outside of like academia on your resume, at least one piece. I worked at Publix for 5 years, and I can't tell you how many times that came up in the interview process for my internship, that people really did love not just like you being able to work in a social setting, you working with others, but you as an engineer being a full-time student taking on a job outside of that really shows like work ethic and ability to juggle your time well, that management well. So maybe even if it's not on your resume, something to bring up in interviews is to show kind of that duality, and so you're not just, you know, a square of all engineering. There is a little bit more to you as a person that you're able to do.
So as long as we have Hannah on the floor, we have a question very specific to her. And that is, a student is very interested in the associate clinical specialist position. Could you share which skills and experiences were most valuable in helping you succeed in this role? And what steps would you recommend to prepare oneself for such a path?
Yeah, sure. So I had a really unique experience, and I've talked about it a little bit, being able to have the ACE internship with Medtronic my senior year. And so that really taught me everything that I needed to know and exposed me to the role of a clinical, so that when I was interested in taking a full-time job, I was a great candidate for Medtronic because I had kind of already been tailored into exactly what they're looking for as a company. But as someone who doesn't have that background, I think what I would recommend is really putting emphasis on your social skills. Again, I'm going to come back to this. A lot of what I do on the day-to-day is not engineering technically specific. I don't use SolidWorks day to day. I'm not pulling out electrical engineering and mechanical, but I am pulling the general skills of problem solving, right? Like I have to understand like catheter mechanics to a certain extent. I need to be able to look at cardiac arrhythmias on a recording screen, and that's an electrical system, right? Your heart. And I need to be able to identify like what arrhythmia my patient's in. So there are some skill sets there that I think you can extrapolate and interpolate from your very like niche technical engineering skills. But I'm going to come back to the social over and over again. If and when you go through a hiring process with Medtronic managers, they're super interested in getting to know you as a person. They're looking to see, is this person a great fit to go in front of my customers? Are they going to be able to make a relationship? Are they going to be able to communicate effectively and professionally? Are they going to be able to be called the night before? Hey, Hannah, I need you at this hospital. It's 3 hours away. I know you've never been, but do you think you can get there and like successfully like handle some cases? Can you be put in those complex situations and do that? And so I would really recommend that you put emphasis on any sort of experiences that you've had where you've been in, challenging social settings and you've overcome them, where you've been in, a customer service role at all. Again, I'm going to come back to that Publix. Like I did talk about that a lot, and I know my managers really enjoyed that. But specifically, what I can offer you is I know Medtronic has a public website. It's called medtronicacademy.com. And what it lets you do as a potential, person interested in the field is go on and research a little bit more about Medtronic's products, and so that you can go into an interview or just kind of see if you'd enjoy the field with the headspace of knowing like what we support. So there's all sorts of information about like what catheters Medtronic makes, what mapping systems we have, and you can kind of review those. And I know that would be a great edge for you to bring into an interview when you can say, hey, like so-and-so, I saw that Medtronic has this catheter and I'm really interested in how it does this ablation. That makes you stand out amongst your competition when you've taken the extra step to go investigate Medtronic as a company and what products we make.
Very good. I particularly like the part about having to read cardiac ECG waveforms now, because we just covered cardiac ECG.
Every day, Dr. Paglia, every day I'm analyzing those things.
Yes, and you probably didn't know, or maybe when you were taking that course, that you would end up having to be reading those every day.
No, I did not. And you know what? I would recommend BME Physiology is probably the #1 course I use in my day-to-day. It is like at the core of what I do, understanding my cell conduction, my arrhythmias, like the whole works. Yep.
Which is why you got to try to take in as much as you can while you're here. All right, our next question is, what helped you feel connected to your company's culture when you first joined your company? Who would like to start that one?
I have a good one. Or Alicia, go ahead.
I was going to actually say, at my first company, I really enjoyed my time, but I think that was one of my biggest issues. I didn't connect with the company culture. And I think when I realized it myself that maybe this wasn't the field that I wanted to be in, because I was in the defense industry, which is great. We're supporting all of our, military personnel, but I didn't connect with it personally. And that's actually when I moved to the medical device space. And I think since then I have truly connected there, because I have the opportunity to make people's lives better across the world. And I would say my perspective at J&J, I actually had the opportunity to go work at Emergent during the during our COVID time. And I had the opportunity to work with the FDA to disposition batches of our COVID vaccine, which helped millions around the world.
Thank you.
I would just go on top of that and say, I think that is so fundamental to biomedical engineering, like why we're all here is because we want to help people in the medical device space, whether that's create a new technology or make one better or help people use it or so on. But specifically at Axogen, I think fundamentally you need to make sure that, hey, the company is aligned with your goals of, helping people. And it's really easy to, when you're in the thick of it, to really get focused on dollars or time or whatever, or margins. But Axogen did a really good job of making sure that, hey, the patient and the gift of human tissue that we use is at the forefront. When I was hired at Axogen, it was so apparent from me having the purpose, but also the interviewers also saying, hey, do you understand that what we use to make our product comes from someone passing away, giving us the right to collect their nerves and help someone else. There's a certain culture behind that purpose. And I really think if you can find the company that you think you align with, when you go into that interview, that's also an interview for you on them. You make sure that your potential manager, the people you work with, also share that same passion.
Great. Anyone else adapting to the company culture, fitting in? All right, Chris, do we have any more questions? Oh, we can't hear you.
Yes, we have a question for Jacob as well as Jennifer, and I guess we'll have Jacob start it since he's got the floor. The question is, I'm very interested in the manufacturing role and would appreciate your insights into what key skills and experiences have helped you thrive in this position, and what advice would you give someone looking to pursue a similar path?
I'll keep mine short so I can let Jennifer talk about her experience too. But I would say a lot of the skills in manufacturing are being a jack of all trades, which I think the BME program, as we've talked about before, is that you get a lot of variety. But I would say manufacturing is very broad. I have been very lucky to get into the part of manufacturing that I love, which is the tech transfer, working very closely with R&D to develop a new product and then make that product better. Make more of it with less quality issues over time until you make everything with nothing. That's our little unofficial slogan. But yeah, I would say first is figure out what you want to do. Is it on the new product development side? Is it on the sustaining side? Is it on cleaning and sterilization? Is it on shipping? What is it on? But then just go learn some skills about that. When you get the opportunity to talk about it, just really show that you're interested. And I appreciate you bringing up the key skills. I wanted to bring this up during the talk about skills. I think a green belt, Lean Six Sigma, is one of the coolest things that you can bring in to an entry-level job. And if you say, hey, I am Six Sigma certified, that will raise some eyebrows for sure.
Awesome. Jennifer.
Yeah, well, following up on that, I agree with Jacob. Manufacturing engineering, at least what I had, is a little bit of everything. We've done validations on new machine and new products. I've gotten to work with design engineers on new product development, launching that into the market, but also sustainability, improving our current processes, our equipment, upgrading it to be better. It's a little bit of everything, which is great because you get to learn a lot in your one position, but it's also a lot. You have a lot of responsibilities, things going on simultaneously. So skills that I would recommend you having: project management, show that you can work multiple different projects at the same time and do it well, but also don't be afraid to mess up. Thankfully, my company, my team, when I started out, was very big on you will make mistakes. That's how you're going to grow and learn. And they were right. I messed up quite a few times on certain things, but thankfully I've learned from that, and now it's a more streamlined process getting things done. So yeah, don't be afraid to put yourself out there. Ask all the questions. Every manufacturing engineer job is a little different depending on the company. Yeah.
Very good, thanks. All right, so the next one is for everyone, and I must say I really like this one. I get this question all the time when I have my student advising sessions, so I'll be curious to know what everybody in the panel has to say about this. The question is it more beneficial to further your education, such as a PhD in material engineering or go straight into industry?
So
All right,
Chris,
Alicia.
I'll take a stab at that one. I think I'm going to say it's going to depend. I think if you're going to go to R&D, if you're going to want to work in research and development, I would say you need a minimum of a master's degree to start and have a good career trajectory there. And many of your colleagues will have PhDs. I think for some of the other areas, it's going to be really dependent on you and what you want to accomplish, because many times you can get into companies and they will actually pay you. They will pay you to go do your research. They will pay you to go to school. You can kind of get a paycheck and go to school, a little bit of both worlds. But I will say once you start getting into the job, you start having a family, you start doing other things, there's many demands, and you're going to find it harder and harder to go back to school. So sometimes it's best to go all the way through. And again, you've got to gauge what's going to be right for you and your personal situation.
Jennifer.
Yeah. Well, I got my PhD. I went straight through from bachelor's, master's, and PhD. And I will say it depends on what you personally want. I loved doing research. It was a lot of fun because it's skill sets that you grow in a different way in academia. I thought that I would stay in a lab for the rest of my career, but even while doing my PhD, I know there's a course at USF that I took about it wasn't biomedical engineering, but it was within the medical college where they had it was a class that I got to go take tours of companies around Tampa that were involved in BME. Yeah, it was exciting. So that opened my eyes a little bit more, and that divert my interest over there. So because I realized I can grow in other ways. But bottom line, it's what you want to do, and what Alicia said, companies will pay for you to get your further your education down the line. So if that's something that you decide down the road that you want to go and do, that's always an option available to you.
Thank you. Sophia?
So I am finishing my master's in BME right now. And the reason I took this course was because in BME, so we are so broad. When I started BME, crazy enough, I thought that I wanted to go to med school. I thought that having a biomedical engineering degree would be more competitive than a biomedical sciences degree. So I came in with the thought that I would get this degree and then go to med school, and a few students have. But joining the program, I kind of shifted gears and I realized I took Dr. Frasina's class, like Introduction to BME, and saw everything that you could do with a biomedical engineering degree. And I was like, oh, wait, this is so much cooler. So it was a switch into, okay, so now I know I want to do BME, but where do I fall? I started in labs, and I was kind of like working my way around like the different sectors because BME is so large. And by senior year and during the capstone project, I realized that I loved the industry side of things and the medical device development. And I didn't know that from the beginning. So when I was thinking about graduating, I was like, oh my gosh, I wish I would have had more time to kind of build my portfolio with more, research and development style classes. I focused on labs so much. And so the accelerated master's was a great opportunity because it's one more year. And by working as a teaching assistant or working at the school, you're able to get it, your tuition paid for. So it was a free degree. It was one extra year. And it gave me the opportunity to do an internship between my senior year and then into my master's, where I got to have another internship on my resume in industry. And then I was able to work with Jabil again one more time. So it really served as kind of like, I would say like this buffing year of like beefing up my resume and gaining some skills. I got to take more classes that were industry oriented. And so now as I'm graduating my master's, I feel more prepared. I'm like, okay, like I had the time to kind of figure out what I wanted to do, which is what school is for. And then I got to take advantage of all that USF has to offer. So I'm really thankful for having that extra year.
Super. Thank you, Sophia. Jacob?
There we go. Yeah, I've wanted to add a bit to that as well. And I think having a PhD and master's helps open more doors. but I don't think it's always necessary. And so for me, I've got my bachelor's degree, I'm working in R&D, and really what I would emphasize is getting your foot in the door. And so for me, now that I'm in R&D and was able to get there, I gain experience in that, and that kind of precedes my education. So people are now looking at my work experience more than they are my GPA. I honestly really don't need to have it on my resume at this point because you have experience showing that you can exceed and excel in the role, and that's really what people want to see. So I would say one note to that is if you're in a larger corporation, the education that you come in with is going to be more important. If you're at a startup or some other smaller entity, they're going to be looking for people that just have the skills that they're looking for. And so that would be my suggestion. If you don't want to go through the school route, try and find something smaller to get in. And then once you're there, you'll build the skills. You'll be forced to be a project manager because you won't have a project manager managing your R&D projects. And so you'll naturally pick up the skills, and then you'll be able to talk the talk and walk the walk. So I think there's definitely ways to do it both ways. And so there's lots of possibilities.
I'll make my thoughts quick. I only wanted to bring this up because out of school, I very much thought I wanted to be an R&D engineer, and I would not settle for anything else. And I learned very quickly that if you want to be at a large-ish or large company in R&D, you absolutely need an advanced degree. It's very, very hard to get in and also to move up. But otherwise, I would say it's not necessary, but I agree with everyone. More education is never bad.
True. It can open up doors. I do think the large and small company comment does hold true very often. Haley hasn't answered this question.
Dr. P scared me off of it when he said he was interested to know our insights. I don't know if I can really provide anything additional beyond what the other panelists have said. I can say Jabil is a very large company. Jabil Healthcare is a very small sector. I am the only person on my team who does not have a master's or PhD, so I do kind of feel the heat of that a little bit, but I will also say that the reason I got in this position in the first place is because I proved boots on the ground that I am an effective worker, and I don't believe that it would stunt my growth at this company because it hasn't so far. But I don't know, maybe in 2 years' time I rejoin the panel and have a different thing to say because I'm really happy with the position that I'm in right now with my bachelor's degree. So kind of just really echoing what everybody said, it really depends on your goals. It depends on what kind of company you want to work for, and then specifically what position you think you want to obtain within a company as well.
True. Thank you.
Very good. Thanks, everyone. We have no more comments in the chat or questions in the chat.
So we are going to put a survey out to our audience, and that'll come out in the week or two to see how we did and how we can improve for next time. We want to thank you for joining the first ever USF Medical Engineering Alumni Career Panel. I thought everybody did great, so I want to give a big round of applause, everybody, for what an awesome job you guys did. Really impressed. And we hope that you'll have a great evening and come back next year. We have our little plug if you need more information. I know one of the people who registered for this seminar is from another major and is thinking of transferring. And I think that person probably got a lot of reasons to consider doing so today.